Hey, welcome to another episode of the Fit Growth Machine podcast. I'm Brian Brayson, to your host, and today I will interview Will Basta. He's an entrepreneur and investor disrupting the e-commerce automation space. He has many valuable lessons to share with you guys, so stay tuned. Before talking to him, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you by BSR Digital. At BSR Digital, we help e-commerce brands that want to scale their business to the next level through Facebook, Instagram, and Google Ads. Yes, after the iOS 14 update. Now more than ever, we need to understand that it's really important to level up the marketing and design a solid strategy, as what used to work doesn't anymore. So if your e-commerce brand lacks a solid plan and professional team to increase sales, we can help the same way we have helped more than 1,000 brands like yours for over a decade. To learn more, you can visit us at bsrdigital.com, or you can also email us at hello@bsrdigital.com. Now, as promised, I have Will here with me. Hey, Will, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, Brian. Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. So please tell me more about your story. How did you get started with this?
Yeah. So I won't get into too much detail, but I'll give you sort of the cliff notes. I started my professional career in the tech industry. So I was working primarily for startups, so sub 20 employees, building out their marketing, strategic partnerships, divisions and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of parallels to entrepreneurialism and the startup environment to some extent, given the fact that it's an unpredictable environment. And so I really thrived in that environment a lot. And while I was doing that for about a decade, I was obviously on the side doing sort of micro investments in the digital space, whether it be, starting some digital marketing stuff here and there, attempting at Amazon, having my failures here and there, et cetera, but really getting ingrained on learning about these platforms and how to really leverage them correctly. And if you sort of fast forward a little bit past that, a few years ago, we're closing in on 3 years in January. My business partner and I invested in a so-called competitor in the space at that time. They weren't a competitor at that time. You could sort of look at them now as a competitor, even though I wouldn't really consider that, but essentially offering the same things on the surface. That term automation, Amazon automation, was getting thrown out there a lot back then. It still is to some extent, but point is, it was new and newer, and people, on the surface, it's beautiful because you want to get into Amazon, you want to get into e-commerce. I can just pay this company X amount of money. They can operate the entire thing for me, and I can sit back and collect my check. Sounds great, but we soon found out that we pretty much unraveled all the inefficiencies in the industry and did a lot more research during that investment process. And we just realized that there's just too many gaps in all these models. It had a lot of potential, just was not executed right by pretty much everyone across the board. And that's where the bells rang. And we said, hey, we've got a lot of experience here, and we know how to build companies, run companies. We know how to bring ethics into the space and to really legitimize this offering and take this model, refine it, and really optimize it and bring in real infrastructure. And that's essentially when our company spawned, Ascend Ecom. And so what we did is we flipped the script on approaching the actual business in terms of how we built it. We focused on the infrastructure first, the logistics, the supply chain aspect, really having our own exclusive warehouse, building a vertically integrated system where there's no outsourcing any of our employees, all the things that the second you sign up with one of these organizations, you can sort of tell that it's fragmented. Once you sort of pay them your money, you can sort of see how fragmented the investment opportunity is. And we wanted that to not be the case, obviously, because that's the heart of the success of sustainability in this industry. And so, you fast forward probably about a year into that, we still only had about 10 clients purposely because we were proving out our model. And in 2021, January, we said, hey, we have something special here. There's a lot of organic growth happening. The last couple of months, we're up to about 20, 30 clients at that point. And we decided, hey, let's hit marketing with this. And now we are in September when this is getting aired at the moment. This probably will get, the listeners will probably hear this sometime in the fall, deeper into the fall. But at this exact point, we are, about closing on 500 clients. And, we do millions of revenue for our clients. And we've got 2 warehouse facilities in Dallas and an office in LA where I'm at right now.
That's great, man. That's a great story. Thanks for sharing that. And, for a year or so, I've been following a guy named Alex Hormozi. he's going up
Yeah.
lately, right?
Yeah.
Seems like a great guy, very professional, and of course he has proven that he knows what he talks about. I have read his book and follow his podcast and everything he published because he looks like
Yeah.
he knows what he's talking about. And one of the things he always says is that it's not only important to offer to your clients what they need, but also what they need before what you offer and after what you offer. So in this case, it's not only, hey, I'm going to take your business to the next level by, I don't know, running your ads or doing something else. But no, hey, if you need to run an e-commerce brand, you need probably fulfillment, you need logistics, you need X, you need, so that's probably what you have built here in your company, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Hermosi's great. He's got a lot of, intelligent insight on a lot of different business, but just business insight in general. And I think, yeah, that hit the nail on the head. It's a lot of it has to do with us approaching the model and the fact that we are looking at longevity and sustainability. We are not bringing on clients and talking about, hey, this is how much money we can make for you on this Amazon business, and then watch it crumble afterwards. Everything that we've done in terms of our offering and the things you can add to the business model as you come on board with us and increase your investment capability, all those things are focused around sustainability of the investment and making sure that it has all the pieces, at least we offer all the pieces to make sure it can appreciate in value and keep driving revenue in the right direction. And so it's not really just that, we're not short-sighted. It's all long-term vision here, and people see that. And that's why we've had a lot of success, and that's why we get a lot of organic growth, is people see that we're not spinning the same wheel that we were the month before. We're constantly looking at how this industry is adapting and how we can adapt with it and bring value to our clients, 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the road.
Hey, awesome. And just out of curiosity, I mean, why Amazon and not e-commerce in general?
Yeah, so we do Amazon and Walmart. We focus on third-party platforms. We primarily pick them because Amazon is going to be your first investment. You can look at Amazon in two ways, right? People can say, hey, it's too saturated. How do you get in there and start making money? Right. Well, at the end of the day, yeah, it might be saturated. It might have 2.5 million sellers in America on it, right? I can slice that into a third almost immediately, because who's actually really competitive to an Ascend client? Because most of those sellers are selling one product, they're in a niche category, they are selling out of their garage, they are a corporation that's focusing on strictly their brand, whatever it may be, they don't have the infrastructure for scale. And so we accelerate clients into that ecosystem, and Amazon seller platform is pretty robust in terms of analytics. It is, the majority of people shop on Amazon because when they go online, because they know they can buy everything from a spatula to tire greaser and baby formula all in one sitting. And so it's the best place to start for a sustainable venture. And also, we don't need to focus on ad spend unless we go down the private label route, which we do eventually for more complex investors. We just go off the coattails of essentially the fact that you get a massive amount of foot traffic on Amazon. And if you are sourcing these products in a manner where you can undercut competitors in pricing, not only that, but also look at their inventory levels, their store health, things that make you algorithmically sort of jump to the front of the line with Amazon and premiere your product. That's how we win sales. And if you do it the right way, we get our clients essentially, like I said, accelerated into that ecosystem. So we like to focus on that first. Also, because as an asset, these businesses are worth a lot of money down the line as they're done the right way. Not saying Shopify isn't or anything like that, but a program like Shopify is, you have to pump a lot of money in ad spend. And at the end of the day, there's no promise that product is going to do well. We start with wholesale. We sell products that we get approved to sell that are already branded, that already do well. We're just getting them at a cheaper price and sort of sneaking into the front of the line to get the buy box. So that's the short answer of that.
Okay, great. And you previously mentioned something about a process, like achieving longevity and not some, only some quick wins, for the brands. So I
Yeah.
guess you must have a process in place. I don't know, are there some phases involved?
In terms of, what do you mean specifically?
Yeah,
Just to
the
go a little
onboarding. I
deeper.
mean, let's say a brand say, hey, this sounds great. I want to start working with you guys. But
Yeah.
is it and like an overnight success? How long does it take? What are the
Yeah. So
yeah.
if you look at John Doe's store, say he's a client, been with us for 6 months, right? the products that we're sourcing, like I said, he could be selling chips on his store. He could be selling dishware, whatever, household items. It's going to be a whole mix, right? Where they're coming from on the wholesale side, a couple options. As a new wholesaler, which his business would be, you can't get direct access to a lot of wholesalers because you have no established history, right? That's why someone can't just start a business and automatically start buying from a wholesaler. And if they do have one that opens up the doors for them, normally the doors are open for everyone, and it's going to be a competitive product that's not going to do well, or the margins are going to be absolute garbage. The benefit about working with us is we're actually under our umbrella of Ascend Ecom. We actually are Ascend Distribution, so we're a wholesale distributor as well. We do millions and millions of purchases, sometimes a month in the millions, normally in the $700,000-$800,000 range in terms of purchasing from wholesalers specifically and manufacturers at volume with volume discounts, right? And so we already have these relationships established under Ascend Distribution. So clients can come in and then they buy directly from us at cost, right? But they're getting the benefit as if they had spent $1 million from a toy manufacturer. When they didn't, we did, and they're just buying one of those SKUs from us, and they're getting the volume discounted price, so they can undercut in terms of that. So the relationships are already there. And then on the other side, we do have an umbrella underneath us. So these clients are under our umbrella. Therefore, we can get them into some of the wholesale distributors that we already spent a lot of money with. You know, at the end of the day, we're not cannibalizing products, but they can start at a low MOQ, a low minimum order quantity, just to get the ball rolling on their business. And so a lot of these are sort of laid out. I can't give you all the secrets of how we're doing it, but at the end of the day, that's sort of like the meat and potatoes of why we have success for our clients and why they can sort of accelerate in.
Great, awesome. And do you only work with brands that are getting started, or you also work with brands that are successful on Amazon already?
Oh yeah, I mean, some of our clients sell Dyson vacuums. We have to ungate. The thing is, you can't. It's not like if you found a Dyson vacuum at a liquidation center, you can go sell it on your Amazon store. You're not gated and not approved by Amazon to sell that. So we also ungate our clients so they can be approved to sell a lot of these. We're selling Sonos speakers, Dyson vacuums, brand name products that you would be well aware of and some that you wouldn't be aware of. These are products that we know have revenue capability and have had success on Amazon to some extent. We have our secret ways of sourcing them cheaper. And that's at the end of the day, when you're selling a $1,500 Dyson vacuum and you're a buyer from Prime, you're going to go with the one that's selling it for literally $1,350, not for the guy who's selling it for $1,500. That's where the easy wins are for us in some of our exclusivity we have with liquidators. And then we just have products that we know do well in general, but we know the only competitors in this space have three stars for their account health. They're running low on inventory. They don't sell all the flavors of the cereal we're selling or whatever it may be. There's a lot of factors that play into it, but that's essentially how it goes. Most of the time, it's not a product that has zero history of doing well. It's got to have some kind of historic success most of the time, unless that category is historically done well. And it's pretty much no one's going to have a brand. No one's really going to care about brand recognition as a consumer. They don't care if they buy salsa A or salsa B as long as it's mild flavor. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, there's a lot of factors that play into it.
Yeah, you mentioned something interesting because it's something we were discussing the other day with a guest, and is that the branding factor. Because this year there's a report that the coach at E-commerce Fuel, one of the top e-commerce masterminds in the U.S., has put together, and it says that mainly the on and off Amazon, right, the top performers, I mean, e-commerce brands, they have a branding factor that the other group doesn't, right? But how does that factor play on Amazon, where there's no much room for that because it's more of a transactional platform? Or I might be wrong, right?
Yeah. So you're essentially you're asking in terms of the branding. Can you sort of dive into a little bit deeper in terms of? I just want to make sure I'm giving you the right answer here, because there's a lot of complexities in terms of
Yeah. So how does the branding factor plays out on Amazon? I mean, is there something brands can do there? Is there a feature they can leverage, or I don't know?
With Amazon specifically, I wouldn't necessarily say that, and I don't run our private label side of the business, because that's an add-on to our wholesale model. We don't just focus on building brands. Like I said, that's sort of like the complex add-on. That's my business partner runs that side of the business. But at the end of the day, what we're really, and we do run PPC ads to those brands, right? I don't know if there's necessarily, I think the biggest benefit of Amazon is really just the foot traffic. at the end of the day. I mean, you're going to get less fees if you're selling through Shopify and stuff like that. And obviously if you can draw ads directly to your site, but people trust Amazon. There's a trust factor, which is huge. So you don't want to miss out on getting recognition, brand recognition on Amazon as a platform. And then people would feel more comfortable buying directly from your site once you get that brand recognition. And you can also build storefronts out, obviously, too, on Amazon, which is huge. You know, you can have your brand and literally have like a Nike store. Like Nike has their own store on Amazon where it's just all of their material and stuff like that. It's about trust because it's a digital age and there's a lot of new online shoppers that weren't online shoppers in the pandemic, now of which still are a little uneasy about buying from a random website, like a Shopify brand. That also goes back and answering your question previously, why Amazon. It's a huge factor, you know, so.
Okay, great. And I guess some categories work really well and some others don't. So do you have a rough idea on the top categories of what sellers are moving on in?
Yeah, what's emerging the most right now is food and beauty wellness. Those categories are doing really, really well on Amazon. They have the most growth. I'm not saying that's the most sold categories, but in terms of compounded growth month over month, it's those categories. Specifically in Q1, you're going to see wellness products do really, really well. So 2023, Q1, January, February, if you're a seller out there, make sure you're focusing on that, supplement stuff like that, because obviously new year, new me, people go with their New Year's resolution and they want to purchase things that those are the slowest times in e-commerce for sales, but it's the best time for certain niches and categories. So important to focus on that. And overall, it's also one of the most growing categories. We also focus on, we've seen a lot of success this year in, I don't even know how you would categorize this, but it's sort of like hospitality type products for restaurant, like restaurant and hospitality products, takeaway glasses, takeaway containers, stuff like that, because the industry is booming post-pandemic and wholesalers are running out of their actual stuff that they buy, that these restaurants buy from, and these restaurants are turning to Amazon to buy bulk. So selling bulk takeaway items on Amazon has been doing really, really well. And that's obviously a bubble to some extent. Amazon just also recently, I'm not sure if they surpassed, but they're in the same playing field as Walmart now in terms of automotive. Amazon was lacking that category for a while. Most people decide to go on Walmart for automotive parts, and there's a lack thereof certain products for automotive. If you're someone who works in a shop or something, I mean, there's millions of products almost that you can sell in that industry, and they are growing substantially in that industry right now. Amazon, they put a big push on that. So I can go on forever about categories and how they're emerging, but those are the ones that are top of mind.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting because as you said, things have changed a lot,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, iOS 13 update for paid ads, or it could be, the pandemic, the contraction of e-commerce at some point in 2022 compared to 2021 or 2020,
Totally.
And even some clients of the agency are starting or leveling up more their Amazon efforts because they don't need to do many things they need to do outside that, and it's a great channel for brands. So it's pretty cool. You mentioned Q1. Is there any tips or advice or anything you wanted to say for the holiday season this year?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a couple things going on here. So even the big thing top of mind, people are like, hey, we're in an like economic downturn right now. There's inflation, people are going to be spending less, etc. There is still projected about 6 to 8% growth in e-commerce sales than last Q4. So regardless of what's going on, people are still going to be buying more online. So if you thought last year was good, it's going to be better this year, which is great news because everywhere else in investments, people are freaking out. So e-commerce is sustainably growing regardless. Yeah, it might not be growing as fast as it would have if that economy wasn't where it is right now, but nonetheless, it's still growing. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind regardless. Last year, a lot of wholesalers ran out of products because there was unpredicted growth. This year, they are upping their game. I've seen numbers anywhere between 3 and 6% more inventory levels for US wholesalers. Always important to get your product early on. Look at the data, make sure that it's going to be a sellable product, obviously, but no one wants to run out of their inventory in December when it's really, really hot, because there's a good chance it's going to be back ordered and you're not going to get it when someone else really wants it back in stock. So keep those things in mind, obviously. And like I said before, don't don't forget about January, February. It's a good time to reset your business and look at things because things slow down. But there are categories that do really well in those times. They do your research around those categories because you can roll into a strong beginning of the year in categories that, in general, when sales are generally lower around that time of year, when you have categories that are booming, like health and wellness.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned a few categories that are interesting because, something that happens in other platforms is that, as we said before, since things have changed, not all the categories or, price points work for those platforms any longer, right? Probably for Facebook or Google, the average or the
Yeah.
value or minimum is higher. For TikTok, is probably the opposite. It's lower because the demographics. On Amazon, do you identify any patterns on the ideal price points? Or of course, it depends on the category, but
yeah, I mean, that's a very intricate question. And I wish I had some of our directors on here from my company that know the ins and outs of the specifics. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're price checking constantly. The patterns, I'm not necessarily sure where those stand, but we make sure, obviously, if the volume is up in the category, you can have lower margins, right? Cost per unit, if you're selling 100, 500 units a day, we don't care if the margin is 8%, if it's, a product that's doing really well. And it also depends on the competitive environment, but I can't really speak to the actual trends we're seeing because it really does vary. But I would assume this is just an educated decision. Let's forget about the economic state right now. But yeah, people are frantically buying stuff from November on, and it starts in October. So everyone could, in a competitive environment, if everyone's sort of raising their prices a little bit, everyone sort of wins. Yeah. So at the end of the day, someone's going to buy it. You know what I mean? And the volume is just there. And so we also look at sometimes when we'll see that there's a competitor who's lower priced than us, but we're seeing their inventory is dropping. And we'll stay strong with our pricing because they're going to run out of inventory, and we're going to swoop in there and be the only one to buy from. And even if it's 80 cents more, $5 more, depending on the product, whatever it may be. And so that's why we have a team that does this for our clients, just because it's a lot of shit you need to pay attention to have a successful business. It's very complex, very intricate in terms of detail oriented and data oriented. And no one really has time to do that unless this is their sole focus, so.
Yeah, as you said, many moving parts for a one-man shop or even for a company that is not specialized on that. You think, I open an Amazon account, I upload my products, and, that's all. And there are a lot of, operations, behind scenes that are required
Absolutely.
for success, right?
For scale, man. It's all about for scale too. It's like we've had plenty of clients that came to us that actually already had a successful brand, but they hit a point where they're plateauing. They don't have the resources to dig deeper and to take it to the next level because they have their own jobs at the end of the day. It was a side thing that did well. And then you run out of capacity and infrastructure, and you don't want to use a third-party warehouse. You want someone who can take your brand to the next level and also incorporate other aspects and a larger catalog of products to sell in. And that's what we do. We can take brands that are already there, run with it. If there's still potential, we're going to grow upon that and compound that growth with our facilities and our team. And then we'll also add to that category. I mean, you have just recently brought on a client that's like in the clothing niche on Amazon, and they do, $1 million plus a year, but they've plateaued in sales. And that's the most they're really doing with that, right? And they're only selling clothes. They want to become more of a general seller too. Us, we're taking with what they have, the success that they have, managing that for them. A number of ungating categories for them to sell more stuff in the household category. And there's just opportunity to sell in all different categories. So sometimes niching yourself down is beneficial. But for a lot of our clients, it's important to make sure you can do relative categories too. You don't have to be a clothing niche and then randomly start selling automotive parts. You know what I mean? You can sort of narrow down and maybe sort of incorporate baby products and baby clothing and stuff like that. Like slowly merge into other categories because there's money to be had in all of them if you do it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, it's important there. I mean, I don't know if this is from Jay Abraham or someone else, but the 3 levers for success, in any business, acquiring new customers, increasing the AOV and increasing the LTV.
Yeah.
So in this case,
Yeah,
I think many businesses focus in the first one, as they say, but not in the other two. And in this case, it's great when they have a variety of products because they can actually, I don't know, create bundles or upsells, cross sells, whatever, right?
100%. Exactly. You cross sell on multiple platforms too. I mean, we have clients that, that when they buy the bundle of Amazon and Walmart, and especially if we have private label products, I mean, we are selling them on both of their platforms. And you might see the Amazon or the Walmart product has a 50% higher margin strictly because there's less competitors, but you're getting more volume of sales on Amazon. And it varies. So some products will just do better on another platform than the other. You don't want to miss out on that opportunity. You want to cover ground. Diversification within e-commerce is extremely important. It's if you have the capital, don't put all your capital into one business. Get multiple Amazon, multiple Walmart, maybe try your Shopify if you want to do that. Other ways of e-commerce. I just think it's important to mitigate risk. But if you're looking at your own product category, I think having multiple of these portfolios of stores is an important aspect to get to if you have that kind of capital and to go down that route. Because at the end of the day, you are on a third-party platform. They do control that and they can change rules as they go. And every store is going to have a different product mix, potentially, if you want to have that and have different focuses. Capital allocation could be extremely weighted on, you can put heavy weight on that for private label in one business. It also gives you the malleability to sell one store if you want to, when it gets to a point for valuation and it's worth 100K or more in the six figures, but then you make sure you still have one for passive income. So you're not sort of losing out on the passive income game, but you're also capitalizing on the digital real estate game, which is flipping businesses online.
Exactly. Hey, Will, you've been great. You shared a lot of value with the audience. I just want to make sure that, I don't know, if there's anything I didn't ask you that you think will benefit the audience, please let me know.
I think we covered a lot in 30 minutes. It's super, super great being here. I think it's just important for people who are looking to tap into this, if they are involved, obviously take some of that information and roll with it. But if they're looking to tap into an industry like this, make sure that you are, and this is not a sales pitch from our side, if you are looking at automation providers, because there's a bunch out there, there's a lot of noise. So make sure you ask the right questions. Make sure there's transparency there, that you can visit their facilities, which we're completely open about. You can come see our warehousing, making sure you're asking those right questions about, are they outsourcing any of their team? How are they sourcing their products? Is there diversification with product sourcing? These questions are important to peel back the layers of who's a genuine and real automation provider before you toss them 50 grand or whatever their cost may be. So just keep that in mind. Asking the right questions, peel back the layers, and you'll see who's real at the game.
Awesome. To wrap up, I have a final question I always like to ask my guests. Do you follow any influencer or anyone in the industry or in, I don't know, the entrepreneurship space that you would love to give them a shout out or to mention here, or any books that you have read that were really, really useful to you?
Yeah, there's a bunch. A lot of this, I'm probably going to gear towards the health and wellness space because that's a passion of mine in general. And so also a fellow entrepreneur, I've never personally met him, but Aubrey Marcus, he started On It, and I believe they sold that to Unilever, very successful wellness brand out of Austin, Texas. He also wrote a book that is very inspiring called On the Day on Your Life. So I attribute there's a lot of good knowledge in that about just starting your day right and applying that stuff to whatever you're doing, if it's entrepreneurial or not. So shout out to that. I think that book holds a lot of weight in all forms of life and it touches on a lot. So but currently I'm actually looking at the book I'm reading right now, which is funny because it doesn't actually apply to anything we've been speaking about. And it's called Drop Acid. And that's not acid, the actual drug, Drop Acid, which is uric acid, which is something that is technically, a driver of a lot of inflammation and problems we have for health issues later in life. And so very interesting book, about halfway through it right now. It's about your diet and certain things that you can implement or take out to make sure that, you age slower than you'd like, or slower than currently we are, and make sure you stay healthy into your 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Yeah, it's good that you're reading something different because that's my problem. I cannot read anything outside that space. I don't know, productivity business or something like that. And I always tell my guests, like, hey, please tell me more about, I don't know, different books in different spaces that I can read.
Because not just the business mindset books. Hey, a good transition for you. Tony Robbins is obviously in the business, thing, but he's got a book on precision medicine, which is his recent release, like the last year. That is a good book to start. And if you want to transition slightly out of the spectrum, but still have a speaker in there that obviously is focused on that kind of stuff, it might be your first step out. I forgot exactly what it's called, but you can easily find it.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Okay,
So
I'll do something for you guys listening. I will, go Google that, and then I will put it in the show notes. As always, you can go to fitgrowthmachine.com and find the show notes, or if you are on Apple Podcast, you can find some of the fragment of the show notes there, or you can head on over to fitgrowthmachine.com to see the full notes. Thank you, Will. Again, where can people go to learn more about you and your company?
yeah, absolutely. Our website, www.ascendecom.com. That's ASCENDECOM.com. You can learn about our business models, book a call with our team, educational call. It's really about learning about your background and seeing if there might be a fit. And then our social channels, Instagram are probably the most, we're on the most in terms of posting, and that's at ASCEND_ECOM. So at Ascend_Ecom. And then YouTube as well. Excuse me. That's Ascend Ecom. You can find us there.
Awesome. We'll make sure that everything you mentioned is in the show notes. So if you're watching this and you're there, please go grab the links there. Or if you are not there, go to that page and get those links. Thank you again. It was a pleasure to interview you, and all the best, man.
Absolutely, man. It was great being here. Thank you so much.